I was asked to reflect on my experiences during 3 decades of penal reform. And New Zealand has featured quite strongly in that. I first came here more than 20 years ago, and I discovered that New Zealand is a sort of criminal justice barometer. It moves fast in picking up trends. In the late 1980s, prison populations in some English-speaking countries started to go up. When that trend started, New Zealand went for it in a big way. You will know that we measure imprisonment rates by 100,000 of the general population. In 1992, New Zealand had a rate of 119 per 100,000, which was a bit high compared to other countries, but well within the range of the normal. 1998, we were at 128, 2004, 152, 2010, 197. And the actual number of prisoners had more than doubled. By 2010, you were way out of the West European League. Germany, 83, France, 102, Scotland, 151, England, 154. That's the top of the West European League. So you are in a different league, the East European League, the countries that used to be in the under the Soviet Union. You are between Moldova, which is 183, and Slovakia, which is 203. So that's quite odd, you know. Nobody else of this sort of country is there. So people talk about New Zealand a lot in penal reform circles. What is going on there? Another way in which New Zealand was a barometer is this. In these same English-speaking countries, someone discovered that there's good business in packing rehabilitation into little programs, calling them offender behaviour programs and selling them, thus creating a profession called offender management, which is not a very nice phrase, because it enshrines a view that once convicted of a crime, a human being gets into a category of person called offender, which is clearly a judgmental word, and is no longer an individual with many personal characteristics and qualities. All identity is gone. Father or mother, carer or athlete, artist or addict, all gone in the definition of offender, and an offender who's going to be managed. Not helped, not befriended, not socially reintegrated, but managed. And New Zealand went for that in a big way, bigger than anyone else in the world. Seamless end-to-end offender management, end-to-end offender management is a phrase I first heard in New Zealand before it started cropping up in the UK and in 1 or 2 or maybe 1 other place. So New Zealand is always interesting and always in the forefront of the latest developments. I've learned a lot from visiting you over the years, and you've contributed a lot to my understanding of what criminal justice is about and why it is as it is in different countries and cultures. And I'm grateful for that too. Now, a bit more history. Soon after I came here for the first time, I went to the first ever prison reform conference in Moscow in 1992. It was extraordinary. There we all were, bunch of foreign penal reformers behind what had been called 2 years before the Iron Curtain, where if you visited, they put microphones in your hotel bedroom, and people who spoke to you probably got an interview with the KGB at the best, if not incarceration. The organisers of the conference were very brave former dissidents. They knew Russian prisons from the inside. So there we all were, and they pressed the government to allow this bunch of miscellaneous foreigners who'd come to the conference to visit the infamous Butyrka prison, built in 1771, and which had once held the writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn. The authorities did not know what to do. They knew they were in a new world, they knew they had perestroika, they knew that foreigners could now come. What were they going to do? They didn't answer. So the pressure was put on them, and on the last day of the conference, suddenly a message came through, you can go. So the conference was cancelled, transport was organised, the governor of Butyrka prison got his instructions, and when we got there, he opened the doors. So in we went. He even opened the cell doors. Have you ever been outside a cell door behind which are 100 people with no windows? When the doors open, you are almost knocked out by the air that comes out of that room. The prisoners were, gobsmack's not a nice word, the prisoners were very bewildered. There they were, shaking hands with foreigners who gave them cigarettes and took their photograph with them. And that was the beginning, and that was the most dramatic of my many experiences in the former Soviet Union. The Russian Gulag system went throughout the Soviet Empire and had led to the deaths